What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Martinez, and you are plugged into the Social Plug podcast, where we connect you to level up and where we highlight and discuss ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We are always powered by Social Plug Media. Today, we are in CollabSpace Studios, where you can create content, you can collaborate, you can have your own podcast, and you can watch ours. You can even be a guest. It is a little cool today. It's a little cold outside, but here we are, rain, sleet, or snow, bringing to you live some great content, some great discussion on this Thursday afternoon. I got my man, the guy with the plan, JRock Castillo. He's here getting ready. What is going on?
What is up,
JRock?
Yeah, I'm good. Oh, you can't hear me on my mic. What's going on? I don't know. Keep going. I don't know. I can't hear me.
Hey, I can hear you loud and clear. So,
can you?
Yep.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
There it is.
There we are.
That's what happens when we go live, JRock.
Yeah,
I mean, stuff happens.
It's happening,
we do one take. I was just telling our guests here, we do one take. If we mess up,
Yeah.
oh well.
It happens, man.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it more genuine as well, to have those conversations to where it's just, don't plan it out, man. Let's be real. It's like today's podcast is about to be real, man.
It's going to be real. It's going to be great. It's going to be educational, motivational, inspirational. You're going to learn some stuff. So I've been learning some stuff for the past hour or so with our special guest. This guy brings a lot of passion. He brings a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom. I learned he's an Air Force vet. He did some time in the Air Force doing some electronics, but he's beyond just doing some electronics in the Air Force. This guy is a game changer. He's taught me a lot about medicine in the last hour. So the way that we think of medicine, JRock, the way I've been taught, the way we've been programmed, it's to take pills, to take vaccines.
Hulk Hogan told me to take my vitamins, bro.
Say your prayers, brother.
Yeah.
Take your vitamins, 24-inch pythons, brother.
Yeah.
He got booed, by the way, the other
got
night.
super booed the other night.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Hulk Hogan.
But you're correct, man. That's what we've been taught, right? To take medicine, whatever the doctor tells us, get that prescription. It's going to make you feel better. But sometimes I'm actually a little afraid to take medication, bro. Even Tylenol, I'll be honest with you.
Because you don't know what's in it or if it's really going to... Because our body has chemistry, right? And everything kind of merges together. And there's some times where you might take a pill and it might make you nauseous.
Yeah.
Or have diarrhea or whatever. Because there's side effects to things. It affects one person differently than it affects the other.
Yeah. And I want to ask Doc about this too, because like I was on tramadol for a while and I got really addicted to it. And as a youngster, breaking my ankles and stuff and playing basketball, and that jacked my stomach up, And I see a lot of people on that drug. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure it does its things, but medications like that, they actually scare the shit out of me. So.
Are you sure it wasn't the Taco Bell you had the night before that messed up your stomach?
Right, that's probably what it was, right? Probably the Taco Bell.
Because that Taco Bell has some special medicine in it, man. I don't know what it is. It's like a laxative.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Yeah, no, I doubt it was that. But again, at the end of the day, the medication freaks me out. So I'm really interested in what we're going to do. I know earlier y'all were chatting it up, but I was kind of getting things ready, kind of in my zone. But I got a lot of questions as well. So I'm interested. I'm very, very interested in today's episode.
Yeah. So one of the cool things that we have on this podcast is the ability to build relationships with people that have been there, done that in whatever industry they're in, whether it be an athlete, whether it be a musician, comedian, the medical field. And today we have the honor of being with somebody who's in the medical field, who's going to educate us on some stuff. And they have some game-changing equipment and setup that has changed people's lives. And it's changed the way people see physical fitness, mental fitness, and medicine. And he believes in functional medicine, which is different from your traditional way that we were brought up. Like I said earlier, we're brought up with vaccines and brought up with medicine. And take your pills, take your vitamins, take your Spectrum, 50 milligram, this and that. So we're going to learn how he thinks and his perspective, because he has a broad perspective and it all makes sense. He's a very intellectual guy. So he's a medical doctor. He's not just some guy off the street that we picked up. Say, hey, can you just come into the podcast studio? No. This guy, he's been doing medicine for a long time. He's board certified. He's a board certified family medicine doctor. He's residency trained. He's an undergrad at UT. Hook 'em horns.
Yeah.
University of Texas.
We got to win a champion. We got to win our playoff game, but I'm not going to go into that right now.
Yeah. We'll find out if he's a UT football fan. We'll find out. I'm pretty sure he is. I mean, I would say he graduated from there. Or Yeah, he did graduate from there. His undergrad. He's got his medical degree in the medical branch in Galveston, Texas. Beautiful Galveston, Texas. We've all been there. I just took a cruise out of there a couple of weeks ago. So Galveston is where it's at there. This guy is an influencer. He influences people, his patients, people all around the state, maybe the world. We'll find out what his reach is here soon. He's an innovator. He has an innovative and creative mindset that is not only very influential, but it's contagious as well. I've learned some stuff, and his most important bullet point today. He's my friend. He's my new friend. All right. Without further ado, Dr. Lane Sebring. What is going on, Doc?
Good to be here, man. Thanks for having me. You're good at this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a little bit. Are you cold?
It's a little cool in here. I know. I'm not as cold as I think you should be, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. As long as these aren't showing too much, I think we're gonna be okay. You know, that's why I wore black, so I wouldn't look weird.
Heads up.
Weird is the key word. I don't want to be weird. Mm-mm. And we only keep Austin weird. And UT, are you a Texas fan?
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in Oklahoma till I was ninth grade.
Boomer Sooner?
Yeah. And so my dad went to OU.
Okay.
And so
is there a rivalry between you guys?
Well, he died when I was 9. So
okay.
I'm 70 years
See,
old.
This is a live show here.
Yeah,
see what
right.
happens?
Oh, yeah.
But Doc, you say you're 70. The way you carry yourself, you're like a 52-year-old man. All right. You come in here and you got the physique. You're mentally sharp. You show me some photos of you on the paleo diet and then the carnivore diet and these all kinds of diets. And I'm like, wow, this dude's a real deal. So you not only walk the walk, you talk the talk. You work out, you do your thing. So I don't look at you as a 70-year-old guy, right?
Nor do I.
Yeah, and you shouldn't, because it's just a mindset, right?
Well, I like the 70 part because it gives me history that I can draw from.
Okay.
That part I'm happy. I'm happy I'm doing as well as I am at 70, which means I'm probably doing some things right. It wasn't without effort. Mm-hmm. But I certainly don't feel that way. And part of that is an inspiration coming from a lecture I attended many years ago, kind of got me down a pathway that changed everything, my entire mindset, especially about health and medicine. Mm-hmm. And that was a lecture by Dr. Lauren Cordain, who ultimately wrote a book called The Paleo Diet, right? And after about 4 years of listening to his lectures, we got him going on that. But the point of it was, he was looking at hunter-gatherers, those people who still hunt and gather. The women gather, the men hunt. And we don't have very many of them left, but they're still out there. And we've been studying them for about 200 years or so, their diet, et cetera. So he actually saw what they ate, tested what they were getting in their diets, and then presented that. There was an article in JAMA he had read in 1983 about the hunter-gatherers, how much healthier they were than we were. And I thought, that's really interesting, because I've always wondered why humans have all these chronic diseases.
Yeah.
And wild animals don't. On a pristine part of the planet, if you saw a wild animal with a chronic disease, you would go, I'm out of here. I don't know what the deal is, but that's not normal.
Right. Something's in the water.
Right. Radiation leak, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So something crazy. But we ended up, he ended up showing that these people maintained their functionality in almost complete square wave. And people like say, oh, they only live to be about 27 to 28. That's not true. They have 100-year-old hunter-gatherers out there, and their functionality is incredible. The attrition rate's high in the early years. Okay. So that affects the total life expectancy. But once they get past that, 37% of the men get killed in combat with neighboring tribes. Right. So that brings it down. But the actual life expectancy, maximum life expectancy, has not changed. The number of people getting there has. That's gotten better. But they maintain their functionality in much more of a square wave. You know, you go through puberty and it goes up, and then it's pretty level. Right. So you have let's say a 92-year-old hunter-gatherer that, what I say is, they wake up dead one day, and haven't danced through the night like everybody else a couple of nights before, so they maintain their functionality. Most hunter-gatherers, even into their 90s, can see the moons of Jupiter. What? That's our genes. They can smell the urine of an animal from 40 paces away and tell you what it is.
Well, that's me. I can smell when my dog takes a poop.
Yeah, I bet. Right. But from 40 paces, I don't know. I mean,
Nah,
so
depends on what they ate.
right. Got a good point. So, but yeah, they can tell if it's even male or female from that.
Wow.
And so that's the kind of functionality we are supposed to have, and we've lost it. And the answer looks to be that's the diet we've changed, and it gums up the works. We're just not designed for it,
Yeah. Doc, so I've said this several times, in my own circle. Food affects us just as much as cigarettes, booze, marijuana, whatever you want to say. Food can change our internal functions and our chemistry in the body, but we have to eat, right? So is that accurate in saying food has just as much influence? That's the word we used earlier. Influence in changing your body, making you look older, making you look younger. It has just as much effect as booze and cigarettes. Is that accurate, or am I off base?
Well, it's if you really, it depends on how you want to look at it, but I would say more.
More, okay.
It actually has more. Granted, it's smoking and alcohol. They decrease our functionality, and they shorten our lives and quite a bit.
Okay.
And so how can I say that? Well, if you look at your functionality of the hunter-gatherers with that type of diet, and the fact that when we started agriculture 10,000 years ago, growing our own foods, and mainly that means grains, wheat, corn, rice, barley, oats, all of those foods, when we added that into the diet, we lost 7 inches in height. That's an archaeologic fact that follows the introduction of grains into the diet all around the world. More frequent infections, more devastating infections, losing our teeth through our lifetime. Osteoporosis shows up for the first time in human history. The skull, the sphenoid bone, the bone that buttresses the sides of the skull and provides a big part of the bottom of the bucket for the brain, was no longer strong enough to span that original distance. Our eyes were further apart. Our brain casing was larger. So the body narrowed it so it wouldn't break because of the osteoporosis. Now we have a jaw that no longer holds all of our teeth.
So back in the day, were there more teeth in the human?
Same number of teeth.
Because it's 32 today, right?
Right. And so, well, how many people have no room for their wisdom teeth and has to be taken out? And that's the reason why, because we're not eating the diet we're designed to eat.
And you say the skull changed, because I've seen old photos.
Yeah.
I'm not a historian, but I do like the history of man, how we've evolved,
Right.
How we were knuckle draggers before, and now we stand upright, and we're continually evolving over and over as the decades go with hybrid, African American mating with Caucasian and Hispanic with African. Well, it doesn't matter. Where people are evolving. So I see the brain or the skull is a lot different from back in the hunter-gatherer times. The skull was much larger.
Right.
It was much more like an ape. So
Right.
we've seen that.
We have smaller brains than Neanderthal.
So is a smaller brain just as good as the big brain? Is it really the size of the brain, or is it just how it functions? I don't know.
There's been a big argument about that. So I think there's enough to say that it didn't help us any, number one. But number two, I think it has diminished. Our stereoscopic vision is not as great. And our auditory is not as great. Our ears are a little bit further apart.
So it's just weird because you got some geniuses today.
Sure.
And when you look at the hunter-gatherers, they weren't educated people. They might have been, but we don't know any better. We weren't there with them.
So most people who live with hunter-gatherers, this may come to a big surprise for you, but it was for me actually. But most people that live with hunter-gatherers will tell you they're more intelligent.
Really?
They're better at problem solving. They're more interested in people and their surroundings. They are less affected by adversity in childhood into adulthood. They're more resilient. Okay, having babies is way easier. It's a total different experience. I had a period of time where a lot of women were coming to see me because they couldn't get pregnant. They'd spent, whatever for fertility, $70,000 and still no baby. So I was successful at doing that. It was really interesting. I've stunned myself throughout my career just because I've gotten on some right tracks and what took place. It's just respecting the design of the body. But I would tell them, I said, you come from a very long line of very fertile women. What's wrong with you, right? And so what I would do is I would put them on the paleo diet, omega-3 fish oil.
Which paleo diet is what kind of diet?
That's what's modern. That's the diet that Lauren Cordain figured out studying modern day hunter gatherers.
Because we hear about it all the time. Paleo diet, you see it on the labels over at HEB or Target, whatever. When you're purchasing this food, you're looking through the freezer. Paleo diet, gluten free, all these different things.
Right.
So paleo is something. I know it's not a new thing. It's been around probably for decades.
2 million years.
Right. But we just started thinking about, within the past, 20 years? I mean, that's when I heard about the paleo diet
I learned
first.
about it in 97.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my gosh, the whole world's going to be doing this in 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, the pushback was incredible. It was 20 out of 20, I think, in Time magazine. And I thought, my same thoughts are those doctors I have a conversation with using our hormones like real testosterone and real estrogen and that sort of thing, real progesterone. And they said, you don't have any studies on that. I said, how about, okay, you could say 2 million years, or you could say it's the exact same hormone all the way back to fish, because it is. Okay, I think it's been vetted. You think you're going to make it a better one? Okay, you can't patent those hormones. And therein lies the entire story. So, but it's the same mindset that doctors have. Well, there's no studies on the paleo diet, you see. And so here's the story with the women. I put them on that diet, and it was crazy what would happen. Omega-3 is a good probiotic in the paleo diet. And I would put them on a little bit of weightlifting. If I would ask them if their tubes were open, their fallopian tubes, a lot of times they're scarred, and that's why they can't. And most of them, that had been tested already, and they knew it was open. Some didn't know, and so I would put them on high-dose proteases. Now, protease is the enzymes that our pancreas makes to digest protein, meat, and that sort of thing. Okay. So that's a natural thing we make already, but you could take it in large amounts, and it gets absorbed in total into the body, and it'll eat up scar tissue. Okay, so you can have adhesions around your abdominal tract, or you can have surgery and you got adhesions in your shoulder because you had your shoulder replaced or just worked on it, and it'll eat those up. So those are the things I would do for them. I think virtually 100% of these women, and there weren't that many, it was like 12 or 14, something like that, they got pregnant. And not only that.
Just by changing to a different diet.
The diet they're designed to eat.
Okay.
And so, yes, changing their diet, and the omega-3s I think were really helpful. They felt better, energy was better, all of that. And their babies were lifting their heads at delivery.
Wow.
One of the pediatricians yells, "Oh my gosh, this baby's got muscles it's not supposed to have. It's doing things it's not supposed to be able to do," right? And come to find out, it had turned over. That's 3 months old, I think, 3 or 4 months old.
Yeah. Sometimes that doesn't happen until they're 9 or 10 months old, maybe even a year.
Yeah, well, that's not normal. Yeah, so we're in trouble, So. But, and then these women were coming in and saying, "Doc, you're not going to believe what happened when I was delivering this baby." "What do you mean?" "Well, okay, I was having orgasms with contractions."
Really?
Honestly. And more were coming in, and I'm shaking my head. Why haven't I ever heard about this, And I went to a functional medicine group up in Austin, and we were meeting like once a month. And there were some women over there talking, and I went over to them, and I kind of interrupted their conversation before we got started. And I said, "Hey, have y'all ever heard of this?" And I told them about it. And someone went, "Wow." And one of them goes, "Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be." I said, "I get that, It makes perfect sense. It blocks down pain, amazingly. Goes to the baby, I'm thinking, what if we were born through some sort of orgasmic experience, instead of mom coming and go, you have no idea how much pain you caused me.
Right, right.
Mom,
how much pleasure you caused me this time.
Right. You're such a dear.
Yeah.
So finally she said, I said, that's not really helping me. I get it. But, well, I think there's a book written on it called Orgasmic Birth. So I just got on Google or whatever it was at the time and typed in orgasmic birth, and there were videos of these women in warm water with the baby daddy behind them, probably her husband, of course, and then holding on to him, kissing him on the neck, telling them how beautiful they were.
Wow.
And trying to change this experience, and it was happening. But I would say half of those women, I'd had one woman, a patient of mine, she grew up on a farm and they ate vegetables, they didn't eat a lot of fruit, but they ate a lot of chicken and eggs and beef, and it was grain-fed. I was not grain-fed. The cattle was grass-fed, finished.
Which is a big difference.
It's a big difference. Grain-fed's better than no beef, okay? But grass-fed is a better deal. It has a lot better ratio of the fats you want and a few other things. But so that was the diet change, and this is one of many examples about what this diet has been able to do. I mean, people were tossing they didn't have the hypertension. Diabetes goes away. I mean, you're not supposed to say that, but I've been saying that since almost 97.
Right.
But and now I think it's accepted that you can, what do you say, you have diabetes or not when your hemoglobin A1C is in the hunter-gatherer range,
right, right.
way below diabetic, and it stays there every day. It never goes high,
Since we're on that topic, there's a lot of people with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, myself included. I was diagnosed with that for a long time. I was taking pills. Hell, I still take pills today.
Yeah.
For high blood pressure, high cholesterol. It's prominent, as you know, in the Hispanic population. Diet has a lot to do with our health.
Well, what your three main staples are flour tortillas, beans, and then what's the other? Rice.
Yeah.
At every meal.
That's in every meal.
I know. I was married to a Hispanic woman for 29 years.
And so what do some of us say? Oh, I won't eat the tortilla. It doesn't matter. You're still eating the rice and the beans. It's still the same thing. Or I won't eat the beans. You're still eating one of the three. So that does affect your body. It affects your weight. Sometimes you wonder why. Hey, why am I always foggy? Well, hell, it's what you're eating constantly. And so high blood pressure, high cholesterol is prominent in the Hispanic and African-American communities as well. And we're raised like that. And
there is an evolution to that, okay? Because grains have been in the diet to different degrees, lengths of time, depending upon where you were. It started in the Middle East 10 to 12,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago in the Far East, 5,000 years ago in Europe, and about, I think, 2,000 years ago here. And so it's new to a lot. I mean, evolutionarily wise, it's new, and so they have less time with it. So it has more of an effect. You have American Indians now. The American Indian they lost 7 inches in height. I mean, they were very tall, tallest people on the planet when the Europeans first started coming over here were the Plains Indians, and 98% of their diet was buffalo. And so that's all changed dramatically. The Osage Indians, they took several of them over, 3 or 4 of them over to show them off to the aristocracy over in Europe. And they says like, look what we've got type thing. But these human beings were super impressive.
Right. Lean. They were muscular.
Way tall, you know. They were some of the taller Indians actually. And they ate between the guy who was chronicling that whole trip, they were eating 10 to 12 pounds of beef a day apiece.
Wow.
The guys on the Missouri River with the Lewis and Clark expedition, they rode up the Missouri River. That's a fast-flowing river. my first year internship was in Sioux City, Iowa, and I asked them, "Hey, y'all ever go swimming in the river?" And they all laughed at me, never said a thing. And I drove by and I went, "Oh, okay, I get it." But these guys, they put the biggest guys on the boat. They rowed all day long, and they were given 9 pounds of venison apiece.
9 pounds. So let's put that in perspective. That's like a.
And that's lean. that's you know.
I mean, I can eat a 16-ounce steak maybe on a good day. Maybe I usually eat an 8-ounce to 10-ounce steak.
Right.
But 9 pounds. But is it because they're constantly working out? They're constantly rowing boats and you know.
Well, the meat was a lot more prevalent back then. You know, poor people ate more meat back then than we do today. Even wealthy people would eat, just because it was so prevalent. Even on the plantations, everybody ate more meat than we do today because they could hunt. It was easy, you know. There was a bird that's now extinct. We caused that by overhunting, but it was so fatty it would burst when it hit the ground.
Really?
When they take it out of the air. Yeah.
What bird was that? Do you know?
Yeah, no, I can't remember. I think it's something like a dove or something like that.
Okay.
I can't remember. There's a couple of birds we hunted to extinction, but that one was probably pretty good to eat.
So, Doc, when you came out of college, I mean, you didn't have the same mindset you have today. Obviously, you've evolved. You've changed your perspective. You've done research, and you've been influenced by others and read books and gone to your mentors and all these different things.
Yeah.
That change people's perspectives on life and in medicine and things like that. So when you came in, you were a family practice doctor, giving out prescriptions, giving out pills, telling people to take the vaccine, take this Hep B shot, take this polio, whatever, right? What's changed? What was your turning point? At what point did you say, this is bullshit, let's change the way we think?
Well, it sort of was a cluster of things that, first of all, I've always been interested in diet, and that was poo-pooed in med school, you know. And you looked at their studies that they referenced, and they weren't good studies. And so I wrestled, you know, through junior high and a bit in college. And so diet was a big thing, and I knew it made a difference. And so that was there. I always maintained curiosity. Einstein said it's a miracle that curiosity ever survives formal education. And that's apparent, and it's certainly true of doctors. I mean, the curiosity is not there, it seems. To step out of that box and to see what else is there, you know.
Because the elders in the medical industry or field, they don't like change. Am I wrong about that?
No, well,
this is how it's supposed to be, and this is the way we're going to go with it. Kind of like scientists. Who are you to change the way we are writing these books or thinking about medicine?
Yeah, you know, that's a huge point, and it's worldwide. And so it's historically, it's been 50 years for a paradigm shift after a better way comes along. And more information shows us that that's better before the people actually start adopting it, especially. If you calculate that, that's kind of like, okay, the people learning it right now have to retire before there's a change.
Right.
And so, because they're in control. And so Max Planck, the father of quantum physics, who brought it to us the idea that the original model of the electron spinning around the nucleus of the atom was like the planets going around the sun, was not correct. And so he showed us this, and his evidence was quite compelling. And he was, but you know, people said, don't tell me, I've been teaching this for 25 years, I've got evidence myself, I know that it's the electron model or whatever.
Right.
And Max Planck was interviewed by a reporter, I think, and for a magazine, something like that, and they asked him, so tell us, Dr. Planck, how do you see science advancing? And he said, funeral by funeral. And it's a little rough, but there's a lot of truth to that, unfortunately.
It is true in politics and corporations. I mean, everywhere, because just because you grew up and you establish this company or establish this industry, and you thought that way, it doesn't mean it's true. You got to evolve. And I'm one of those. I don't always like change, but you have to understand. Now we're in 2025. People think differently. Kids are different today. They're influenced differently. I can't raise my kids today the way my parents raised me in 1986. You can't do it. So medicine is evolving. Right. The way you said a hunter and gatherer, they evolved. We just have to evolve. And I think you're onto something, because diet and exercise is the key to victory to me. It's changed the way I appear to people. I don't look like Shrek anymore. I don't look like I'm lazy, lethargic, and all these things. You have to look energetic. You have to present yourself.
And that was there the whole time.
Right. It was always there. But why are we taking all these medications to kind of keep us down and to keep these corporations in business? And that's kind of the way I see it. And I don't know if I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but that's the kind of way I've seen it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch, but
it's business.
But we see, as we get older, what is happening, what we're being fed, what we're being taught, and what is being indoctrinated into the schools, into the colleges, and all these things. Well, are we guinea pigs? Or I don't know. And is the medicine that we're taking killing us, or is it really keeping us alive? Is it keeping these industries, these corporations, rich? Do they have our best interest in mind? And I know that's a whole broad slew of things that I brought up, but
so let me say just one thing here that you said that I was trying to avoid saying, and that is that I'm board certified in family medicine. Okay. I was, but you have to keep taking the test like every 6 or 7 years.
Kind of like real estate. You got to keep certifications. Yeah.
But the problem was in family medicine we had to take like 5 or 6 tests and pass those before we could do the board recertification test. It's like you have to test to see if we can do it or what,
Right.
The test isn't good enough. Well, when I started reading those, it was doing nothing but teaching us about the new drugs. And I'm a pattern recognition guy, and I'm really good at it. And so there became a pattern here that I saw. And you could take mini tests along the way before you took the final test for each one of those 5 or 6 finals you had to take. And so I was seeing a pattern there. And I took a couple of them, paid for them, and I realized I was just being propagandized with these drugs. Because the answer to every one of those questions was the most expensive answer. In other words, at what age can you start steroids in a child? The youngest answer is the right answer. And it was just everything there was answered that way. I took another test. I took the final. I didn't read any of the information about the drugs they were trying to teach me about. And I don't hardly use drugs at all in my practice anyway, so I'm kind of hated.
But you can figure out the answer before.
I figured out the answer, so I saw what they were doing with this whole thing, and I thought, this is deep. The board that required it is getting money for giving that test out. They were very expensive to take, several $100s for each one. And so I'm going, you know what? I don't need this. I don't like these drugs. For when I was reading, I have better ways of doing that. Now, I prescribe drugs every day, okay?
Right.
Somebody comes in and they've got high blood pressure. I'm going to get it down. Now, we're going to work on other ways until I get it there,
right,
to where it needs to be. And I can't always do that. So I'm really glad I have the ability to prescribe, but I have way bigger toolbox than what I was taught in med school. Med school, okay, you get down to the bottom line. What did they teach me? 2 tools. 2. That was it. They gave me a toolbox with 2 tools, and I have to fix everything with that. Drugs, scalpels, and that's it. Everything else is laughed at. Everything's put down. Nutrition in medical school consisted of taking biochemistry, which really doesn't address nutrition. It can once you really get deep into nutrition, and I love my biochemistry for that now. I hated it back then. I was so glad when I took my last biochemistry test. But the medical school's nutrition course really consisted of a single sentence. Well, basically, we get the nutrition we need from the food we eat. Boom, done. Okay, that is so far wrong. And as you know now, the food is not near as nutritious as it used to be.
Got all these additives and sugars and all kinds of stuff that's harmful.
Yeah, you know, I used to listen to these arguments about high fructose corn syrup. You know, that's a big one now. And now you have the Mexican Cokes with the glucose in it, right? And so I have people do a test to see how much insulin they can actually produce. I need to start giving them insulin, right? And insulin's important. You can't get amino acids into the cells. I mean, the bodybuilders added insulin to their injection regimen and all their steroids they were taking. They added insulin in the 90s and added 30 pounds to the average Mr. Olympia.
Wow.
Okay? And so don't do that, but that's... So I'm not board certified. I think I just kind of wanted to say that. But we're back on the rest of your question.
Okay.
So the nutrition has been, why changing to paleo has changed everything. It puts people in control. You know, it's like you don't have to come to me for the drugs if you're not causing the trouble in the first place.
Right.
And so now we've got a really toxic world and being detoxed from that. And our ability to detox is compromised by a whole lot of things, including the foods we eat, including the drugs we take. They compromise our ability to detox the other poisons that we're getting. And if we get into carnivore much, we'll talk about the poisons that's in every plant you eat.
Yeah. Doc, do you see a trend going on today? Heart attacks at 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. I know back in the day when I was growing up, you didn't have a heart attack till you were in your 60s, maybe 50s, depending on your weight and your diet and exercise, your lifestyle. But today, I'm seeing more of a trend. Hell, world-class athletes are getting heart attacks.
Yeah.
And we were taught, Doc, if you're a world-class athlete, you diet, exercise, you work out every day, you're going to live long. But a lot of these athletes are dying away at 50 years old, 60 years old. It's craziness. So is it the medicine? Is it the food? What else is it?
Well, okay. So a few years ago, research showed that the number 3 cause of death in America was proper use of prescription drugs. Okay, I've heard this, and I'm not. I don't know for sure, and I haven't checked it out. But now they're saying it's number 1. So
there's a lot of abuse.
It's a lot of abuse, but the drugs themselves have a lot of negative effects, and then we take drugs to help counteract the negative effects of the drugs that they need to take.
Right.
You know, without another way of doing it. I mean, doing the right thing for your health takes effort, and it takes some discipline.
And a lot of us know what to do. It's just the discipline part that we're lacking.
Well, I might even argue a lot of us know. Most people don't, because the things we've been told is just so wrong. And so, you know, they've been kicking meat around for a long time now. And if you actually, and the beef especially, and if you read those studies, you will see that there's really a very different story there. And so, yeah, there's nothing in that animal if you eat it that's bad for you. Nothing. Okay. Eat the meat. That's all you really need. You can eat organ meat if you want to get the more nutrient dense. There's nothing more nutrient dense than liver. And I'm lucky that I like it.
Yuck.
And we have a couple of restaurants there in Wimberley that do a great job of it. So it's crazy, but it's really good.
JRock, do you eat liver?
I do not eat liver. It kind of sounds a little.
Have you ever tried it?
I've never tried it.
Well, there you go.
Well, I mean, it doesn't sound intriguing. But so, what is what is it that you're getting out of the liver that you're not getting out of a sirloin or a ribeye type deal?
Well, nothing except more of the B vitamins and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It's really healthy with that. Much more nutrient dense in that regard.
I've seen a lot of bodybuilders eat a lot of liver.
Yeah.
And a lot of wrestlers that I've followed before as well, but they stack on that weight pretty quick. Is that something that is natural? I know you mentioned that at the beginning that people would eat 9 pounds of protein in a way. Correct? Is that correct?
9 pounds of venison, yeah.
Okay, so is that something that's kind of natural today if you really wanted to?
I don't know about I eat a lot of protein.
Okay.
But only a third of my calories are protein.
Okay.
The other 2/3 is mainly fat.
So the carnivore diet, I hear, I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. We talked about it a little bit earlier.
Right.
Nothing but meat. Is that dependent on the body? Have you learned that as well?
Well, as long as you're human, you're designed for that.
Okay.
And that's another story here, but I think we probably could talk about that for just a minute because so I was part of a documentary back in, I think, 2005, came out in 2007, something like that. And it was about this fella who was jogging. He was a reporter, and he's like 27, and he drops dead on the track. And luckily behind him there was a doctor that kept him going until EMS got there, and apparently there was an EMS truck there too somehow, and that took him to the hospital. He gets out of the hospital 5 or 7, I think maybe 9 days later, something along that line. And he had a heart defect. He was trying to avoid dying an early cardiac death because his father died in his early 40s, but apparently they didn't know it was a defect. And so that's what he had. And they said, okay, no more motocross. You can't do that. Never leave the house without someone that knows CPR, and you might survive sex.
Oh, jeez.
So
does sex take a lot out of you in your heart? Because I've heard of individuals dropping dead in the middle of that action.
Well, people drop dead doing almost anything, and so if that's going to get a lot of play.
No pun intended.
No pun.
Right. So I don't have an answer for that. I'd like to think it's one of the safest things you could do, but it's probably not.
I just had to ask the question because you said it. I was like, let me capitalize on that one.
So at any rate, he survived that, and he goes around now as a reporter, investigative reporter. Then he started looking around. He tried vegan for a while. He said that almost killed him. And then he stumbled upon the idea of the paleo diet. So he went out to Colorado State, where Loren Cordain was teaching there and doing research. And they met on the football field out there. And he said, if this is human history, like this last 2 feet is manufactured foods the last 10,000 years, And so this is our evolution. This is your evolution until this point, and we haven't evolved enough to totally change our diet. There was a guy on there, though, that was at the Max Planck Institute, speaking of Max Planck, in Leipzig, Germany, and a guy by the name of Mike Richards. And he's head of the human evolution and anthropology, something like that, the group over there. And he was his job was to figure out what animals ate and what the bones, whatever that was, what they ate. And with humans, when they would find human remains 10,000 years older, the presumption was pre-agriculture, hunter-gatherers. And he would look in that same strata and find the bones of an herbivore like a deer and a carnivore like a wolf, And so the herbivore, he could tell by looking at these isotopes of nitrogen, for whatever that's worth. But anyway, but he could tell how much herbivore and carnivore they were. But the herbivore, the deer was here, and this apex predator wolf was here. He said, and it's been done hundreds of times all around the world, always the same answer. And the answer was humans were here, more carnivorous than the wolf, every time it was ever done all around the world. So that means we were carnivores. And there's no argument against that. You just can't do it. And so, so if you believe that, so what happens if you just try eating? Well, magical things happen. Schizophrenia goes away. Bipolar goes away. Really? Autoimmune diseases are effectively, we'll just say, asymptomatic by the end of the first week. One of my patients, she said, Dr. Sebring, I take 3 different antihistamines every morning. And I've gone through a box of Kleenex every day of my life that I can remember. She had put on 20 pounds in the last 3 years. She was in her early 40s. And I work out with weights 3 times a week. I can't get it off. And so I heard about, and she did this on her own. She says, I heard about carnivore, so I thought I'd try it. So I had a ribeye for breakfast, fixed my kids and my husband whatever they wanted. At lunch, I wasn't hungry. At dinner, I had another ribeye. She said before that first week was out, it was completely gone. Wow. She ended up losing the weight. It just fell off over, I don't know how long a time, but it fell off. So she's down to 120 pounds again. Her father is a patient also, and he has a ranch out towards towards Amarillo. And he said, and he started talking about her because I mentioned that the carnivore diet, and so he said, yeah, she looks like she did when she was in high school. He said, we got carded the other day at the dinner. The guy carded. He said she could be your mom.
Maybe I need to get some ribeyes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's when you're eating. Okay, let's just a question on this. So let's say I'm eating, like she did, because trust me, I can eat a steak every meal, right?
And why?
Because one, I love. Okay,
because you're designed to eat.
Does it taste good?
Well, let me go back. Yeah, one, it tastes good, and I didn't grow up eating much steak. So when I started making my own money, I'm like, I love this, right?
Right.
But also, in growing up, I watch pro wrestling, right? So I'm watching these big guys, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, these big guys, right? So as I'm becoming an athlete in high school, they're like, I'm learning, hey, eat red meat, that's what's going to get you bigger and stronger. So I started eating nothing but red meat, but then I started having stomach problems. So I'm thinking, is this natural? Is this me?
Well, okay. Changing your diet that radically will really start a war in your stomach with the bacteria that's going to grow there. You change that petri dish a lot, and different petri dishes grow different types of bacteria, and those bacteria weren't getting along.
Doc, does it matter how your steak is cooked?
I don't think so.
Does that matter?
Okay. Yeah.
So if you eat it raw, of course, you're going to have more bacteria and things like that, right? I mean, in theory.
Well, you're 100 times more likely to get E. coli from grain-fed livestock. Okay, so there's that, and I'm not going to talk about whether that's for the raw is safe or not. I'm not an expert on that, but I cook mine. I like it a little crispy on the outside, so I cook it a little bit fast.
Oh, Doc, you like well done?
No.
Just crispy a little bit.
Yeah, just a little on the outside.
Just a little crispy on the outside. That's why I say I cook it pretty fast.
So let me ask you this. All right, sidebar. Do you put A1 on your steak?
The waitress, even the waiter, right? So she said, but you get a typical question from the waitress, right? She'll say, or waiter, and he says, they say, what would you like A1 sauce?
You're supposed to say no.
And I said, I always tell them, I hope not.
Yeah, that's the right answer. There you go.
I hope not. So, but no, I don't put that on there, and I don't like it. I've never been a fan of any of that stuff, really.
See,
so
that's another old way of me.
I fry it usually.
Okay.
That's a whole nother study. Actually, turned out to be the best way to cook your food. But with the ORAC score, frying it was the best. But they put it through a fermentation process, mimicking the gut.
Okay.
And when they did that, frying turned out to be the highest ORAC scale, the antioxidant and that kind of stuff that was there. No, the steaks are pretty much have everything you need. I probably need to address something here with that is that, okay, so where are you getting your vitamin C, right? Mm-hmm. We don't make vitamin C. The only mammals that don't make vitamin C, I think, are the guinea pigs, fruit bats, and the other primates, humans and the other primates. So, and they're the only ones that actually get heart disease like we do. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a Linus Pauling, so I'm going off on a tangent, but Linus Pauling looked at that. And he's a guy that has 2 Nobel Prizes, and he brought vitamin C to the world.
So where's the best place to
Bananas, right?
Well, is it bananas? I thought is it bananas that get
Well,
vitamin C? I thought
You
it was
think of oranges. You think of oranges, but I think isn't bananas
We're
a
about to
better
get-
source?
we're about to
I get mine
correct.
from a pill.
Okay,
Just-
so
just
okay, me
because-
too. Okay, I was curious.
just because I want to make sure I get it. I'd rather go a little heavy. Vitamin C, if you look up the research, is huge in preventing heart disease.
So you should take a lot of vitamin C then.
Well, I don't know how much it takes, but probably somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 would cover it.
You can get that over at Walgreens.
Yeah. No, I take I take a vitamin C pill too, separate from my vitamins as well. Because I don't get sick often, and I thought that's why I didn't it? Because I take a lot of vitamin C and a lot of my vitamins.
It definitely helps. Vitamin T is good too.
Yeah, vitamin D. Yeah.
My vitamin D people, when they get it up closer to, I personally think it should be between 80 and 120. That's my Listen, I have to say, I'm not a traditional doctor. I'm not pushing traditional medicine, okay? And so you got to know I'm out of the box in a big way.
Right.
And I want everybody to know listening to me. And I want to know the medical board knows I'm telling everybody I'm out of the box.
Right.
And so check with your doctor, okay? I'll just say that. And if you don't like what they have to say, find a new doctor, because there's a lot of us growing out there that.
Can I share something with you?
Yeah.
When I was growing up, and I don't dog on anybody for what they do. I don't give them any bad whatever. As a matter of fact, give him props. He's a doctor, right? So there's a doctor here locally I grew up with, and I used to go. And as a young athlete, I used to tell my mom, like, why am I coming to this doctor for, Mom? Like, this guy's overweight, and he's trying to tell me how to take care of myself. I don't get this, right? And over the years, when I got old enough to be like, all right, I'm choosing my own doctor, I got away from the guy, And my dad still goes him, again, in all respect. But to me, that freaks me out. Like, how is this guy that's very unhealthy going to tell me how to be healthy and just throw a prescription at me when I was old enough to understand that? And that's why subscriptions scare the shit out of me, because it's like, why am I going to listen to this guy that's not even healthy, And those things would freak me out a little bit. But it's just like, I don't understand why he's not taking his own information in a way, you know what I mean?
So JRock
maybe he is.
JRock, we listen.
Okay. And we don't judge.
We listen and we don't judge.
That's why I don't talk about it much, but it just freaks me out a little bit. That's all I'm saying. It's just a little weird. So anyway, he prescribed medicine that it didn't go well with me. And I'm sitting here telling my mom, like, I don't know if it was just my brain or what, but it just didn't go well. I left him, and I've never had those issues ever again in a way. But getting away from prescription medicines helped me out a lot, though. So when Johnny mentioned this to me, I was like, I'm all ears, because I don't like taking any medication in a way, too.
Well, you got to make sure that you're accomplishing what you need to accomplish. And I always like to get that in place first before I stop any medication. You always want to be careful with that and do that through a physician who's monitoring that, because they do know that. And the drugs are powerful, and they can do some things if you stop them abruptly. Okay. So, and make sure you've accomplished what what you need to accomplish with what other system you're using.
Yeah.
So, but that's, for me, it's very satisfying to be able to do that sort of thing, and to, my practice is a real collaboration with my patient. My average visit, is probably too long, but it's somewhere between half an hour and 45 minutes for probably most of it. If it's real quick and they need to go and I need to move, and then so we can truncate that really quick.
Well, last thing with the meat real quick too, if you don't mind. So there's many different types of meat that's being put out there. Johnny jokes about this, says if it doesn't come from HB, I don't eat it. Well, same way with my meat and some local, not Butcher Boy, Granzine's Meat Market. I grab a lot of meat from that place. I love that spot. Right. Is there is there a grade of meat you want to stay away from if you are going to be on a carnivore diet as well?
Well, I don't know about the grade. That's depends on whether you're making chili or making a nice steak, but or hamburger, right? But
okay.
What you do want, ideally, you eat an animal that's been eating its natural diet. eat a healthy animal. I mean, they're cattle that die every day in a feedlot, and they butcher them. You know, so that's kind of from from even an emotional point of view. You go, I don't think I want to eat that one. It just died. You know.
Yeah.
You know what?
But that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I don't like eating, Doc? I like fish, but I don't like eating the fish on my plate that has an eye on it and with scales. Like, gross.
Right.
I'm not going to eat that thing.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, animals in the natural habitat. So you're meaning like the fish farms and things like that? Is that kind of what you...
Well, they grain feed them for one.
Okay.
And so they changed the omega-3s and 6 ratio, which you don't want. You want the omega-3s. You want an omega-3 lecture real quick? Because I think this is really cool.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
So omega-3s is a big thing to take. And I would say, personally, if you were going to take one supplement, it might even be that. Okay, so what is omega-3? Omega-3 is a fat that's in a whole lot of the food we eat, mainly animals, right? And so, and 6s, omega-3s and 6s, those are the biggies. Those two make up about 90% of every cell membrane in our body. And the ratio of those two is dependent upon what you eat. What's the ratio in your diet, okay? So why is that important? Well, omega-6 is like a 60-weight motor oil, too thick to really pour into your engine, too viscous, right? The omega-3 is like a WD-40, you know, or marvelous mystery oil, super thin, like, right? You know, if you rebuild old engines, right?
Okay.
And so those two are supposed to be 50-50 in the cell membrane. You can read the studies and they'll tell you a ratio that they think is good. But I'm a concept guy, so I'm going to tell you the way I think about it, and you're going to see I'm right, okay? No matter what their studies show, I think, okay? So those two, if you have too much 6, then what happens is your cell membrane's too thick, it's too viscous. It's hard for nutrition to get into that cell. It's hard for waste products to get out. Cell signalers back and forth. You have Olympic athletes taking 30 capsules a day of omega-3s, and they're faster. Their nerve conduction is faster. Their muscle contraction is faster and stronger for the increase in omega-3s. Now, 30 is a lot, and there people would argue with that. I'm just saying that's what the Olympic athletes do. The omega-6 slows that down. The other part of this is the omega-3s suppress inflammation. Well, our diet has way too much omega-6. Grains, you eat grains, they're 20-1. You eat an elk or a deer from around here or grass-fed beef, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, exactly what we're designed to have, okay? Well, how cool is that?
Yeah.
So you reduce the inflammation by increasing the omega-3s. Now, here's where, to me, it really gets interesting. I said a 1-to-1 ratio is the ideals. That's perfect. That's perfect for this latitude on the planet. If you go to Canada, you'll get a 6-to-3 ratio, right, of 1-to-4. You'll get 4 times more omega-3s than omega-6s in Canada. Why? Because it's colder, and their hands get stiff. Why do our hands get stiff here in the cold? Some of us may have, before we got here, we had stiff hands. You know,
stiff hands right now.
Yeah. And so, right. I was going to let you say that.
Right.
So, but that's why, because we have too much omega-6. I have patients that come in and they're some people are over 20 times more omega-6 than 3. But and there's different ways to measure that depending on which omega-3s you're choosing and which 6s you're choosing. There's more than one of each. But the ratio in the plants are 1-to-1 here, and in Canada they're 1-to-4. At the equator, it's 4-to-1. They have 4 times more omega-6 than 3. They need it a little more viscous because of the heat, I guess. I don't know. So I talk to my patients. So what am I going to tell my patients they should be? 1-to-1. That's hard to do. But I think if a 4 times more omega-6 works for the body, if you get to there, you're good. Now, you may have a little bit stiffer, but we're not having to run from grizzlies anymore in the winter or whatever, you know what I mean? And so so I think that 4-to-1 ratio is a good one. 6-to-3 is a good one. And so that's it's not easy to do. I have one couple they have their own ranch. They eat free range beef, and she's always passing out omega-3s, and they're I think they're 1.8 each. They follow each other, so they're pretty consistent. But it's things go away. Insulin resistance is decreased dramatically with higher omega-3s. Why? You got a glucose transporter here that's taking sugar from outside of that cell and putting glucose in there, right? So what's it in? Is it in this 60-weight motor oil, or is it in sewing machine oil,
Right.
and moving fast? And it really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so how long, those glucose transporters that put that sugar into the cell, they have to have insulin keeping them going. Okay, insulin stops. So insulin has, if it's viscous, they're slower, and it takes longer to get the sugar down after a meal into those cells.
Right.
Well, how long does it take? Well, what's your cell membrane made out of? Really, that's one of the questions you might ask, and you can improve that. So it reduces inflammation, and that's the first thing people notice with the omega-3s. Man, I'm not stiff anymore when I get up in the morning. Pain is way less. Inflammation is a huge player in pain.
More energy, probably less brain fog.
Yeah, exactly.
Overall awareness.
Yeah, a
like
sense
that.
of well-being. If I'm under a whole lot of stress, and that happens in my life from time to time, and so then I'll take 6 omega-3 capsules in the morning, 6 in the evening. By the third dose of that, I'm different.
And you're going to be looking like Hulk Hogan.
Well, your workouts are better, and you're not as sore the next day.
Right.
It really makes a difference.
So is it like a natural steroid, kind of? Because steroids, it's not the steroids that...
the
steroids allow you and your muscles to not tear, right? Is that kind of what steroids do? Where you can work out
you're
like
getting into
the same muscles every day or multiple times?
Yeah. Oh, the little micro tears you're talking
Right.
about. Okay. We need those. That's part of the rebuilding process. Okay. But it's not a sore doing it. And we have too much inflammation, and that impairs the rebuilding process. Okay. We need inflammation, but it can be overdone.
Right.
So there's different steroids for, like testosterone works on the belly of the muscle more than anything else, and it doesn't do a whole lot, unfortunately, for the tendons and joints. So pushing a lot of testosterone without helping the tendons and joints at the same time, as an old man, you're setting yourself up, for an injury, right? I tore the biceps tendon off a while back, and it wasn't much weight. It was surprising that it came out. It sounded like Velcro,
Right.
So, but I had that put back on, and but sometimes when you really want to help like I've got old guys and young guys too. They have shoulder surgery, and it's a long rehab, and I can put them on a little bit of nandrolone, which is through the FDA, right? Mm-hmm. Nandrolone tends to work more on tendons and joints. And it really works, and their rehab time is almost cut in half. Put them on nandrolone just a little bit. They're like 10 or 15% of their testosterone is removed, and you substitute that. And it's a real small amount, but it really makes a difference.
So, Doc, you mentioned recovery time cut in half. We were talking before. You have a state-of-the-art innovation, right?
I do.
It's a game changer in the health and wellness realm, spectrum, whatever you want to say, and it's at your clinic.
Yeah.
Right? And that's in Wimberley.
It's in Wimberley.
So you have a young lady. She's here in studio today.
Right.
And she's part of our crew here. She's sitting across from me. Her name's Ariel Wright. Mm-hmm. She is an awesome individual, and she helps you. She's there in your office with you.
Right.
And we have her here today, and she is a big advocate of what we're going to introduce. And she's kind of an expert, I would say, right? I mean, is that wrong? Is that wrong? So Ariel Wright. So you're going to hear Ariel's voice. Okay, so JRock is going to, we're live on the set here.
Yeah, we got
So JRock's going to introduce her on camera.
Here we go. Are we good?
So, Doc, I'll kind of let you, or Ariel, you can introduce this chamber that we're going to talk about, and JRock's going to show it. So
let me show this chamber first. You can kind of see it there in screen right now on the right-hand side. So if you want to explain it there a little bit to us, what this chamber is.
Yeah, definitely. So we have this hyperbaric chamber in our office where we put people in it just to kind of relax. Honestly, it's pretty big on the inside. I wish I would have had a picture there to show you guys what it's like. But it's super roomy, can fit 2 people comfortably, wouldn't you say? Definitely an interesting experience. People kind of get nervous that they'll get claustrophobic, but it's really big on the inside with a nice comfy mattress, and we hook you up to a non-rebreather mask, which is a mask that kind of you get in a hospital and there's a bag attached to it, and we're just pumping in 99.9% oxygen, if I'm correct on that.
That's a lot of oxygen.
Yeah, right. And then we take you down to a 2.2 atmosphere where we take you down to pressure. It takes 12 minutes, 12 minutes to get us down to pressure. And it's super cool because once you're down in that pressure, breathing that oxygen, it flows through your bloodstream and it's fixing things at a crazy rate. And we kind of recommend that you do it several times to get the best results from it. And with getting the best results, it's going to change your life. And I've seen it change people's lives and take it to a whole nother level that is kind of really hard to even describe. People experience it and they're just kind of like, how did this happen? Where has this been? Why does nobody talk about this? And so when Doc got the machine and he was getting it out there to people and his own patients are experiencing things, we have tons of testimonials and crazy stories that we've seen with our own eyes, and kind of getting it out there to the right crowd is where we're at now. So, I mean, I'll let you take it from there and just telling what you've seen.
Yeah, it's really been fun to watch. You read about it and then you think you're okay, I'm convinced this is really, so I'm going to invest in this. And I had actually done it myself. In Austin, there's a ATX Hyperbarics up there, and I've known those people for a long time. And they have a great place up there. And they, so I had about 25, we call them dives, about 25 dives doing that. And it had done an awful lot for me in a lot of different ways. And, it's used to reverse or to repair concussions, and concussions aren't just what happened at the time and now you're better. The people that have serious depression and stuff, almost all of those have a history of a concussion. And the more that's happened, the more likely it's going to. And I have a patient right now that's going through some really tough kind of personality changes and really having trouble. And but he hasn't done the hyperbarics because I just found out about this. He was doing some brain biofeedback.
You're about to change his life.
How bad were the concussions, Doc? Like where was he getting his concussion? How did he receive the concussions?
This guy?
Yeah.
Well, I can't really tell you because that would give away too much.
Touche.
Yeah. Okay,
But just in general.
Well, football's a really big, and even in soccer, sometimes they'll hit their heads, But people that have been knocked out, that's a concussion pretty much every time.
I had a concussion in 5th grade. I was on the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And the buddy, he hit a speed bump, and I let go, I guess, as I hit the speed bump, and I hit my head.
Yeah.
And I had a concussion, and I didn't play football for about a year and a half. And
wow.
But Doc, that explains a lot.
About
JRock. All right, and we're I don't think JRock's recovered from that concussion.
That's the first time I've never really researched it, but that was the first time I've ever heard concussion and then caused depression out of that.
A lot of the professional football teams, that sort of thing, they'll bring a hyperbaric unit to the game. And the
CTE.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's CTE is the what it's called when you have numerous concussions.
Correct.
So I'm watching. Well, I've seen the documentary, but there's a new one, Aaron Hernandez, right, on Netflix. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you watch that. But it does go into the analytics of the CTE, and you mentioned, Doc, it affected his personality.
Right.
So I don't know what it turns you into, but you're more aggressive, anxious, you're angry, and you can do some crazy things that you're not normally accustomed to doing.
Yeah,
like killing somebody.
Right.
Chris Benoit, man.
What happens in the hyperbaric chamber is you go to 2.2 atmospheres. We're at 1 atmosphere here, right? And so that's about 14 pounds of pressure on top of us. So this takes you to 2.2, atmospheres, which is like 17 pounds of pressure on top of where we
Is it
are.
like going underwater, kind of?
Well, yeah, that's what they call it, because the hyperbaric chamber was originally used for people who had the bends. You know, they brought them up too fast from below, and it's coming out of their blood starting to boil. You know, not temperature wise, but it does it because of the decrease in pressure.
Right.
And so that's where it came from. But even in the 1800s, they recognized people, and even during the Spanish flu, they would get people, put them in a hyperbaric chamber type of setup. And sometimes just the pressure itself would relieve their pressure, and they would breathe good. Mm-hmm. And so, but what happens is, you know, we're at 21% oxygen, right? Here, and that's what it is on the Earth. When you go in there, you're breathing. Because of the mask design, it's 99.9%. It's 100% coming out pretty much out of the machines. So, but when you go to that pressure, it's 100% instead of 20. So it's kind of like 5 times more, right? But when you go to 2.2 atmospheres, it's like 12 times more, okay? Because you doubled the pressure and a little bit more.
And what does that do to your body?
Well, you don't even need red cells, okay, to carry the oxygen. There's so much dissolved in the blood. And that amount of that oxygen really starts to change things, and things will heal at a much faster rate. Because that's just it. The dinosaurs were at 35% oxygen. And maybe that's why they could be so big. Okay? So just that little bit, look at the difference in what life could support. And so you couldn't have a 21% dinosaur that big.
Right.
You know.
How long can you stay, and how long, what's the longevity of, how many reps do you got to do?
Some of these people are sleeping in there. I mean, in theory, too much oxygen is not a good thing. You know, they have newborns, they need oxygen, but they have to be careful because they can cause blindness with too much oxygen, okay? I think Michael Jackson used to sleep in it, and I think Justin Bieber is sleeping in. I don't know how long they sleep in there or at what percent.
I've heard of these world-class athletes, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, these kind of people sleep in these chambers.
But they'll heal. You know, you can have like orthopedic surgery or any surgery, and you come out of there so much more healed over, you know, you do it over time, but it speeds up the healing. It stimulates stem cells. It can increase your stem cells by a factor of 7 after 20 treatments.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll go up to even higher than that with more treatment.
All these athletes and everybody's getting stem cells. I mean, I learned about stem cells from Rey Mysterio because he had to go to Mexico because you can't get. Can you get stem cell shots in the U.S.?
I don't know what you could a while back, and I was using those, the umbilical cord stem cells. That I think is, I mean, from what I know about it, I haven't kept up with it in the last 3 years or so, but I still think those are the most powerful there are.
And that's kind of a new concept. When I say new, maybe within the last 20 years or so, right?
Yeah, and so this is a time to give stem cells a little bit of a boost, I think, because. Yeah. So when they talk about, they tried to scare everybody off of this because they talked about fetal demise and all this kind of stuff that they were going to use. You know, if a cell a fertilized egg, it's going to double, and you have 2 cells and 4 and 8 and it's 16, and at about 128 cells or so, they would take those cells, and those are stem cells. Okay, they can become pretty much anything, and they grow, and they can stimulate our body to grow. Well, those don't work. That never worked. The only ones that work as actual stem cells are from an adult stem cell, and newborns have adult stem cells. Wow. Okay, that's an adult stem cell at that point in the life of a stem cell. And the umbilical cord, they throw that away. It has to be delivered by C-section. It has to be a team there that grabs it, and you can treat 1,000 people with one umbilical cord. Okay, and so if you take a newborn stem cell from an umbilical cord and you put it in a petri dish, in 30 days you'll have 1 billion cells. Okay, if you take the stem cells from like a 20-year-old, you'll have like around 30,000 cells. So you can see it drops off really quick, and it's their doubling time. Okay, and so when you go to a 60-year-old, you take 60-year-old stem cells and you put them in a petri dish, you'll have 60. in 30 days. So if you have an 84-year-old man with 6 broken bones after a car wreck, and all repair in the body is done by stem cells, okay, the ones we still have. And they mostly live in the lining of our vessels, okay? So they can go to wherever the problem is, and they sniff out inflammatory signalers, and they go down that gradient till they get there. Okay. So the question is, what's going to happen to those? Are they ever going to heal properly? And the answer is no, not really. But if you give them newborn umbilical cord stem cells, those stem cells go in and tell that person's stem cells to grow and multiply faster. In fact, if you put if you have a petri dish full of 60-year-old stem cells, and you put some umbilical cord stem cells in there with it, those 60-year-old stem cells are going to grow and multiply almost as fast. Their doubling time will be a few hours difference. You know, it's like they double every day, right? And so it'll be a little bit behind the newborn stem cells, what they would do. They do, so the 60-year-old stem cells will multiply almost as fast as the newborn. So because the stem cells put out little packets of stimulants that are called exosomes. Exosomes are real popular. I think stem cells are even better because they can change what they put out according to where you are in the repair process. And so it's live on there. Now, those stem cells, I used to say they go in and become our cells because it kind of seemed like it, because they weren't really imprinted as being in each cell type, so they had that capacity to become a cell. And that's true in that newborn, or in that, you know. But they don't. They don't become our cells. I actually left the conversation when they started telling me that. I got enough biology to know that's not happening. The immune system's going to see that and get rid of them, and they do. And they typically last, but they last a little longer than what they originally thought. They usually said 6 months, but now maybe up to 18 months they stay. But you get repair for, we know, continues after a stem cell injection for, most of it's in the first 3 to 4 months, but they continue to repair for about 1.5 years.
Wow, man, that's great. So a lot more people should be taking stem cells, and I mean, why aren't they? I mean, because it's
Cost.
Well,
okay, cost.
You know, one of the guys came up here from Panama. He was a researcher in Florida, and he took off to Panama because Panama removed almost all the restrictions from it. And it's not. I mean, it's not for the current. It's not good for the current way things are done. Okay, in medicine.
Good or bad?
It's not good for it. It's great for patients,
but it's not good for medicine.
It's not good for the system as it's set up right now. Okay.
Okay.
So you're gonna get pushed back, and power goes. You know, who's got that?
So these guys that are going,
we the people have the power. We're fine.
So these athletes that are going to different countries to get stem cells, it's not good for them, or is it good for them? Well, there's a very famous quarterback that got a whole lot of Super Bowl rings that does that pretty much on a regular basis.
Thomas Brady.
Yeah. Okay.
That guy?
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a LeBron James who's almost 50 years old, still playing.
I mean,
he's 21 years old.
And again, Rey Mysterio, he's in his 50s, late 50s, and he's wrestling like he's 30 again, you know?
So here's my question. Okay, it's back to that square wave functionality of the hunter-gatherers, right? So the functionality of a person in their lifetime goes up with puberty, right? You become an adult, and it stays pretty close to the same, after that. You get a little older, but you get a little wiser, and that helps out. But the hunter-gatherers don't seem to do much of that at all. Now, in today's world, by 30 years old, your growth hormone's down. That's repair hormone, basically, as an adult. But it drops off. We lose all the support, the testosterone starts to fall. That's not supposed to happen either. I know that. Libido drops with it, You need estrogen, testosterone, and cortisol. Men and women both need those three for libido. And so, but the square wave is 3 things. Hunter-gatherers die of 3 things, right? Trauma, boom, okay. That's a square wave if you die from it. Infection, okay. Boom. And at a ripe old age, having danced through the night like everybody else a couple of nights before. So they don't have this downward decline Hunter-gatherers couldn't handle that. They have to carry them around, right? They don't want women having babies more often than every 3 years because they don't want to have to carry that mom's, 2-year-old, right, on this long trip. And so they may walk 14 miles in a day. So that's this functionality thing. How do we maintain this functionality? How do they do that? And I think their stem cells stay and they hear the signals and they respond like they're supposed to. I think there's so many poisons in the plants and stuff, and now today, God knows what we're having to deal with, Yeah. Mercury's still okay to put in the teeth, And so they finally decided that fluoride causes a drop in IQ. That's been shown a couple of times already.
I always decline my fluoride when I go get my teeth cleaned. It tastes nasty.
They put it in the water in San Antonio.
and that too, the Edwards Aquifer.
You put it in the water?
Yes.
Whoa.
There is a small percentage of fluorine, or
Fluoride.
I was going to say chlorine, fluoride in the water.
It messes with the thyroid hormone. Wow. Because it's a real similar molecule to the iodine. It'll displace the iodine in the thyroid hormone. So the thyroid hormone has to have iodine. And so it displaces that. It's how you become hypothyroid. Hypothyroid is ridiculously common, but the range is still too wide, in my opinion. In my integrative medicine opinion, it's too wide, right? And so, and it's super common.
Is there a known cause or something that doctors know or science knows that causes thyroid cancer, or is it just random? Or is it body chemistry, or what could it be?
Well, so we have, let's start with this. Any human being that's alive, their cells, their body, their immune system has been attacking and killing cancer cells probably since day one, right? Or before, whatever we're going to call day one. And so that process gets fooled or is not as robust as it needs to be. There's another process that takes place called apoptosis. Interesting word, apoptosis. That's when a cancer cell recognizes it's cancerous, and then self-destructs, right? It's like on the old Mission Impossible, at the end of this tape, it will self-destruct. But it's supposed to recognize it, but it has to be healthy enough to recognize it. It's kind of ironic. And that's why staying healthy, you have a better apoptosis type thing. Fasting basically when you fast for a period of time, then your body starts to cannibalize itself. But it doesn't just go for healthy cells, it goes for the abnormal cells first. How cool is that? So fasting periodically actually makes really good sense.
Yeah.
But that's the way the body can get rid of and that used to be, hunter-gatherers typically eat one meal a day. The vast majority eat one meal a day. And when you do that, you learn pretty quick you can eat a lot of meat.
Yeah.
Is that why they eat 9 pounds a day? Because it's all at one time?
Well, those weren't hunter-gatherers. Well, okay. Well, I was talking about the guys going up the Missouri River. But I don't know that they ate 9 pounds. Maybe those guys do. I've never really thought
Doc,
of this
if
question.
I ate 9 pounds, I wouldn't eat for a week.
I know, right?
I mean, I could throw down some good steak, bro.
I've seen JRock eat 9 pounds of enchiladas one time.
No.
So the diet I'm on has a lot of eggs available if you want to do that. But I eat between 8 and 10 every time I have eggs. And that's easy, super easy.
But are you waking up the same time every day as well, or is that just like what do you mean 8 and 9? Wait, that's how many you're eating, or that's the time you're eating?
No, I eat them once a day if I'm going to eat them.
Okay.
And how do you eat them? Scrambled or over easy or what?
I have to have a little variety, so I'll do all kinds. I'm going to try. I'm looking at experimenting with doing soft boiled. I did that as a kid.
Okay.
We'll see how much time it takes to soft boil. 8 or 10 eggs. We'll see. Okay. But I'm experimenting with that. But I fry them in butter.
Okay.
Nice. That free grass-fed butter.
So how clean is your eating, Doc?
Well, so there's times that I will say, okay, well, this is too good, or somebody brought in this ridiculous, what was that stuff that we had the other day?
The Danish.
Yeah,
the Danish.
Yeah, that was a Danish that they brought in, and it was from a Christmas present that was delivered. And so I had a little more than that than I wanted. You know, one of the things that, this is probably more nice to say, but with the carnivore diet, there's really no gas, because almost all the gas is made from carbs by the bacteria in the gut.
I always got gas, Doc. Always.
That'll virtually disappear completely.
I think I've passed gas 15 times since I've been on this podcast. I'm just kidding.
I didn't think I was congested. Maybe I am.
I'm trying to warm it up in here.
Trying to warm it up. Let's say get some type of heat in here. Some type of heat.
So, let's say I think I lost my place.
Oh, we're talking about what you eat for your diet.
I always pay for these things, you know, and you know, so I've been basically paleo since '97.
Really? Okay.
But maybe I'll go, you know, Thanksgiving. Sometimes I'll just go crazy, and I may eat like a bite of 5 different desserts or something. Now that's going to cost me. I'm not going to feel good the next day. You know, I won't feel good in about 30 minutes. like I need a nap, you know. But I know that's going to be there, you know, and it's not the end of the world, you know. So, but it's not intelligent either, you know. So the diet itself rather self-corrects you. And you can't wait to get back and you know, something about eating meat that's kind of interesting. I had a patient that came in, 84-year-old lady, super sharp gal, cute as she could be, and she was talking about, I tried the carnivore diet, doctor, and it worked really well, but I got to a point where I just couldn't think of eating another bite of meat. And I thought about that for a while. And I realized that here's what happens. There's Dr. Chafee, Anthony Chafee. He's a carnivore guy, right? He's a neurosurgeon, and he played rugby at the highest level you could go. He's for 10 years, and he said they hated me when I played rugby because I never got tired. Okay, and that's one of the consequences of going carnivore. Energy is not a problem. It's not even a factor. And so people say, I have all the energy I need to do whatever I need to do for as long as I need to do it. And that was from a guy that had zero energy. He said, I never know what it is. People talk about it, and I've never had it. Everything I do is work ethic. And he's 53 years old and switched to carnivore. He says, my God. And he had some other problems. He had a couple of panic attacks every day of his life that he could remember. Every thought I've ever had is wrapped in, you know, anxiety, headaches every day, and depression. Comes in, hey, doc, I switched to carnivore 3.5 months ago. He says, at 5 weeks, everything went away.
Wow.
He said, he said, my last panic attack was at that 5-week point. I have all the energy I need. I have all the energy I need to do whatever I need to do for as long as I need to do it. I used to come home and my wife had the honeydews and I was done, but I get it. I got to do it. That's life, you know, but it was pure hell. But now it's easy. I can do that.
Wow,
I can hardly remember what anxiety feels like. No more headaches. I'm always in a good mood. I sleep like a baby. Oh, yeah, and I've been wanting to tell you. He's 6'3", about 214 pounds, right? And he says, I've been wanting to tell you, he says, I'm losing fat a lot. He says, I'm putting on muscle a lot, and I'm not working out. How does that happen? And that was when I knew
his libido increased.
That's
what it was. He got ab workouts and everything was working out.
Right? Yeah.
That is awesome. Man. That is
Isn't
awesome.
that crazy?
Yeah.
And he said, arthritis in my knee. Well, if that's what it was, I don't know, but it's gone.
Wow.
And so he said, I tried putting some of the seasoning on the meat, and because he's a real griller, you know. And he says, and a lot of my symptoms started coming back.
Oh, okay.
So salt,
the ingredients.
Salt, water, butter, animal, and eggs. That's super simple. So what I thought was that lady her body had enough nutrition going now that she could stop eating And I think her body was telling her to stop eating. And because that Dr. Chafee says, somebody asked him, don't you get bored just eating meat? He says, you know what? You got a 16-ounce ribeye on your plate, you just pulled hot off the grill and you don't want to eat it, you're not hungry. When you're hungry, that'll look just as good and it'll taste just as good every time. And as you get full, it'll taste less good. That's how appetite works. Right. And I had to laugh because here's some guy trying to telling us how appetite's supposed to work. But we're eating the wrong foods. You know, you go to the Mexican restaurant and you're eating the chips and you need another basket and you're just as hungry as you sat down, and there's no improvement in satiety whatsoever because that's all carb. And the stomach has no receptors for detecting carbs, but it does protein and fat, and it starts sending a signal to the brain, hey, we're getting a little bit of satiety, you know, a word to describe you're getting satisfied, right? And so eventually you eat the real meal and you get the protein and you get the fat that you need, but you're halfway through the meal and the carbs hit the brain now because it's already gotten into the bloodstream. The stomach didn't detect anything. And now you go, okay, well, let's box the rest of this up because I'm done. And you only ate half your meal. Yeah. So you cheated yourself out of the real, more nutritious part of that meal.
Wow. And then you're drinking margaritas.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is...
And then you get more salt. Yeah. Then you get more
sodium.
Yeah, you get the munchies after enough margaritas. You got to keep eating again. But so I was thinking that she's supposed to lose the fat. Fasting is good. Right. The body knows what to do. We're off track. We're just off track.
We're doing the wrong.
Women having orgasms with contraction, blocking the pain, all of that. You know, less trauma. You know, it's a more harmonious. You know, the average hunter-gatherer work day is, you know how long it is?
12 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say 16. Wait,
half,
hold on.
Half the day.
12. Wait.
Okay, 12, half the day.
I'll say 16. I'll say 16.
Okay. All right. No, it's 2.5.
What?
Is that just going out hunting and gathering, right?
The average American Indian was gone for about 40, 45 minutes before they came back with the deer and an elk, cleaned, ready to be thrown on the grill.
I can't even go to HEB
How long?
for that.
I mean, how long does that last you? You know?
The deer. The animal, right?
Yeah.
It's going to last a good while.
Because I was thinking about the travel and going out there and waiting.
That's what I was thinking about too.
You know?
Yeah, but there was a lot more game out there back then. I mean, the Indians fished with nets. Yeah. You know, and they were boiling water, they would say, back then in the early days when the first settlers came over here. Yeah. But a 2.5-hour workday.
Wow.
People say that they're very happy people. There's a book that's written about that. Is what's the most happy lifestyle?
And they're only working 2.5 hours a day. That's pretty happy.
Right.
But and then probably less life.
Look what we've done.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We're kind of like killing ourselves in a way, right?
And then you go to agriculture, the workday went to 10.
But then they had a lot of honey-do stuff. 2.5 hours, but then they got to work on other stuff.
Like what?
Right?
Like what?
Stuff
that was included.
Oh, was it? I was like, stuff the wife wants them to do, like, you know, skin the deer and do all kinds of other stuff. And, you know, I don't know.
I think the men probably, maybe not, maybe they did.
If somebody's interested in this carnivore diet, where do you suggest they go and look? Or where would I get information on carnivore? Because I've seen many ways of it, obviously, you know?
There's a book. I have a little nutrition store, because everybody says.
Oh yeah, I have some photos of that. Okay, let me put that up here.
Let me tell you about it, because it really is. It is a thing. I've got. So people are saying, well, where do I get these supplements? Because I would prescribe them, and they'll go to some big box store or something like that, trying to get it, and they don't work. Well, now I've got a variable I'm not used to having to deal with. I prescribe penicillin, and if it doesn't work, either the patient didn't take it or the bacteria is not susceptible to that. And so I need to get a different antibiotic, but not the penicillin's bad or weak or outdated or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they said, are you going to carry this? So finally I started doing that. That was a really big move for me. So I was, I'm thinking, okay, so, you need this, this, and this, and it's right. I sell it right at the door. on the way out.
Nice.
And I didn't do that. I have two different stores. My front door is wide. I have a 50-foot, it's kind of a log cabin type thing, but I have a 12 by 50.
We're going to show a video of that real quick. There we go.
Okay,
There's
cool.
that.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's in the middle of 15 acres. It's about 600 feet off the road. It's got a nice little winding road and down a hill to come see my little clinic. That second door that you saw there, that was my nutrition store.
Okay.
So they can go out the door, shut it. Nobody knows where they're going, left or right or whatever, or straight out to, that's the inside.
One of your patients, Doc, said it looked like a resort, or it felt like a resort there.
It's real comfortable. You know, it's really, you kind of got it back in the woods, not a lot of sound down in there. You know?
I need to go sleep in that chamber for a couple of hours.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. So I was telling you about some actual people that had really helped themselves, but I had one patient that had 3 brain surgeries in a very short period of time, ended up with a plate and all of this, and typically was on narcotics for 10 days or better for headaches, you know. Brain fog that lasted a month. And so they came in shortly after the surgery, got in the chamber, came out and says, my headache's gone, my brain fog is gone, and the swelling is gone with the one treatment. That was pretty impressive.
It's kind of like a miracle.
awesome.
Right.
Kind of.
So they finished up the course, and then they needed to go back to the surgeon, the neurosurgeon, the brain surgeon that did it, and to take the stitches out and just to see how it's looking. She said, this is his quote, this is, what the hell have you been doing? I've never seen healing like this before. You should have been here last week to have these stitches out. What do you say you were doing? What is this? What's going on? So he had a lot of questions, apparently. And so...
like we said, Doc's a game changer.
It is.
That thing, and a lot of people don't have access to that. So how many of these chambers are in existence?
Well, let me tell you, the word's getting out, you know, and it's right now just starting to increase in these. It's doctors don't know that much about them, and it's been used for wound healing, you know, diabetic foot ulcers and things like that. Certainly things like anaerobic bacteria that can't handle oxygen at all, and we have a hard time killing those with antibiotics often, and so they'll put them in there, and that the hyperbaric chamber can kill it, and so there's that sort of thing. But it's been handicapped, really. What happens is the vast majority of the people who historically have gotten hyperbaric therapy are also on Medicare. It's that age group, right? Not healing well and things like that. Okay. So Medicare will pay for that, but it'll only pay for like 7 or 8, I don't remember, different deals, you know. If you have the bends, if you have carbon monoxide poisoning, you know, if you think crush injuries, it'll get good oxygen to those areas where the vessels are crushed that normally would supply it, that kind of stuff. But not very many. None of the stuff that most people, and certainly hardly anything that younger people are going to be needing or want to do. Raising stem cells is not one. You can't even say it's good for anti-aging. You know, you get into trouble with that. And so, so what happens is if you have a facility and you take Medicare, you can't treat anything in your chamber or chambers that Medicare doesn't pay for, even if the person is paying cash, even if they don't have Medicare, or even if their insurance company will pay for it. So that's why it's been limited to that.
Gotcha.
I mean, the number of things it will treat was from here to across my parking lot, I tell people.
Gotcha,
you know?
Gotcha.
So, but that's that's kind of but so many people now are willing to pay for it, and for what you get, I don't know anything that's a better deal.
No.
It's
to change your life like that, to impact you in such a way where you're recovering in half the time,
right,
and making you feel good, wellness and things like that. So
right.
The person you talked about earlier that had the miraculous, he felt miraculous, right? He had the honeydews, and he said he didn't mind doing them.
Right.
That not only changed his health, but it changed his wellness. at home and his relationships and everything. He probably had a better relationship with his wife and his friends, colleagues at work, all these things. So I'm a firm believer, wellness is not only your physical, it's your mental. And today, stress and anxiety is such a burden on people as well. And so all this kind of fits together like a puzzle piece, like a pie. And
he probably loved his wife more.
Yeah, he did. He did. I mean, he had more energy, and his brain wasn't always foggy. And he actually listened to his wife now. Maybe she listened to him more. I mean, I don't know their dynamic.
Right.
But wellness is everything. If you feel well and you look well, it builds confidence and it builds that relationship with others. So we have a couple of questions, and we have a comment from Catherine Sue.
Okay.
Catherine Sue says, "Need to make an appointment for myself and my mama." So I love people that take care of their mama.
I treat a lot of families. One family member comes in, and then here comes their aunts and uncles and stuff, just because we do things and can help. Part of my specialty is helping those people modern medicine has failed. But what I'm doing now is an optimization too, is a possibility. I've kind of done that anyway. Everything is very personalized, and so there's something to that. Yeah. So it would be to Sebring Clinic is the website. Sebring is spelled Sebring. Sebring would be the phonetic way to say it.
Okay. SebringClinic.com?
Sebring, S-E-B, then ring, S-E-B-R-I-N-G.
I've gone to the website. It's pretty easy to navigate through. You have some videos and things like that. I actually did research on you, and you're spot on.
Nice.
With everything that you do, Doc. I do have, go ahead.
The phone number for that is 512-847-5618. 847-5618.
So if somebody wants to change their perspective on medicine and things like that, they can go to you, they can contact you, and maybe Ariel, they can contact Ariel.
And I can do consults too. If they just want a second opinion on something, then they're welcome to come and get an integrative medicine. I call it integrative because I'm still a doctor. These doctors that turn against me don't know me. The ones that knew me before I became this way, they know what kind of doctor I was before. But a lot of them, they think I've lost my mind. I said, I tell them, I know everything you know. I went to the same medical schools. I passed all the same tests. I treat every patient with that knowledge. I think about that as well. And I've spent 20 years, 30 years now, learning so much more. You've got these two tools. I spent a lot of time learning this, but yet you have an opinion on me of which you know nothing about. Right. So frankly, you think I'm crazy. I think you're lazy.
I love it.
Yeah. And Doc, but you have proven results. I mean, your patients have personal testimonies, personal testimonies that speak for themselves.
This is I guess considered advertised. It's also a whole lot of fun, but it's I advertised before, in Austin when I first kind of got started, but it's word of mouth. It really is. We just had some guy that they came in and did so well. They told their family, right.
He brought in like 10 people, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, from this so and so," and I'm like,
So no matter who says what, Doc, people are flocking to you because they understand how you can help them, and the resources you have, like that chamber and your facility and your staff and all that. It's making an impact in their lives, and they love it so much that they're bringing others.
Right.
And that is the magic.
Right. I feel incredibly blessed because I know what it was like to be practicing traditional medicine, and it was rewarding, but it's nothing like this. It's just like, it's constant. It's the accolades I can get uncomfortable really quick, because I'm just doing my job, but I love what I do. People say, "Oh, don't ever retire. You can't retire," And at 70 years old, I certainly don't feel like it. And I tell them, I said, "You know what? I love what I do. I really do. And I have 4-day weekends. what's there not to love? Why would I ever retire from doing this? You know, and I keep adding to it. You know, I was the first doctor in America to base their practice off the paleo diet.
Wow.
And so, and I pushed that until 2 years ago. I still do. It's an incredible diet. I don't tell people what to eat, you know. I tell them what I think. But if I'll work with anybody, whatever, they can be vegan. I have to try and get their protein up a little bit. But anyway, I'll work with people. And, but I sort of give them a choice between paleo and carnivore. I said, you know, either one of those I'm going to be super happy with. Next would be keto, but that's not the best one. Carnivore is much more nutrient dense than keto.
Dr. Sebring, you're an amazing guy. Just got to know you. We're building relationships here on the air in front of an audience, and that is a pretty cool thing. It's very dynamic, and it hits home to me. And you're hitting home to a lot of people. You're an extraordinary guy, and you're doing extraordinary things. You're not just like I said, how I introduced you earlier. You're not just a doctor. You're a dynamic guy who does things for people. And I'm a firm believer when you can help people, when you can sincerely, genuinely change their life and impact them, their family tree, and generations beyond them, that is so crucial in life. And if you can find somebody like you, a doctor who understands, it's not always about forcing medicine down your throat, right?
Right.
It's about changing your lifestyle, your mentality, things that you should and shouldn't be taking. And of course, it's all recommendation. You can't force anybody to do these things. But just what you recommend, and with your experience and your knowledge and your wisdom, you're changing people's lives.
Right. And I get to know people, so I can figure out how I have to prescribe something they'll do, you know, and so I have to have a feel for that. One of the things that when people come to me, I ask them things. So what's your energy level like through the day? Do you wake up ready to go in the morning, or are you slow to get started? Do you have a nap during the day? Do you crash in the evenings? You craving carbs in the evening? You craving carbs all day? You know, what is that like? How's your sleep? Right. You waking up rested? You know, whatever. Yeah.
Are you obese? Or are you a beast? You can say that. I'm a beast, baby.
I like that.
I'm a freaking beast. Man, you know? So I went to the doctor one time and he said I was obese, and I thought he said I was a beast. So I said, well, so we're good. He was like, no, you're a little overweight. So not a little. He said you're not morbidly obese, but you're obese. And I knew what he was saying. He told me, how long do you want to live? Do you want to live to see your children get married and do all these things? And I'm like, absolutely. He says, then change your diet, change your regimen, change the way you think. And I was like, absolutely. I want to stay alive. And I'm sure you do those kind of things
function.
too. Yeah.
You know, most people, you know, you get to be my age, you're not so worried about dying, but you are worried about dying by pieces.
Right.
And that's not what you want to do. And that's not how we're designed. We've already talked about that. You know, almost all hunter-gatherers die from one of those three things. Yeah. And they do good in you know, their functionality is really good. One of the there was I guess I could tell this, it's a podcast, probably not a lot of kids watch it, but anyway, here's so there was an anthropologist who was studying a new group to him, so he wasn't speaking the language, to go through an interpreter. He's trying to ask this 84-year-old man about the health of his 84-year-old wife. Well, first of all, they don't have a word for health because the whole concept doesn't exist. So that's interesting, right? Yeah. And so he's trying, and finally the old man thought he understood. He says, oh yeah, she still gets interested a couple of times a day. And that's the functionality that hunter-gatherers maintain. And everything works, and they see the moons of Jupiter, and their nose still works, and all these things work beyond what we expect. And so it's just, there's, you know, I don't think I'll talk about that. Never mind. I was going to talk about vegetables in a little bit of a negative way, but I'll leave that out. So it's really, yeah, I guess I just feel like I'm really blessed to be able to handle these problems. And concepts are part of that. Hunter-gatherer women, now here's one. Hunter-gatherer women get stronger after menopause. What? How does that work? Well, I think I know how it works. I've never heard this articulated, but a 25-year-old female makes 10 times more testosterone than estradiol, than estrogen. She has 10 times more, a 25-year-old female. Wow, that's something. How does that happen? Well, the estrogen outcompetes the testosterone for receptors and stuff, right? It just can do that. Well, when they go through menopause, the ovaries, I wasn't taught this in med schools. I was taught the ovaries were making hormones, period, and women got their testosterone from the adrenal glands after that. No, the ovaries are supposed to make the same amount of testosterone all the time through their entire life. Once they hit puberty, stays there. So hunter-gatherer women only have testosterone as an anabolic hormone, right? To repair and keep them strong and keep their bones strong and their skin thick and their focus and their energy and ability to defend for themselves and all of that. Goal-oriented behavior comes from the testosterone too, even for women. And so that's how that works, because it's gone and the testosterone's still there. They don't need the estrogen. And they don't make enough of the estrogen to maintain a lot of the femininity parts. I mean, they're going to lose some of that, but that's the whole society does it. So it's just the way it is, and their libido is certainly good. And so, it's really interesting to see how these work out and how different life was. And now women, they try to scare them off estrogen. There's a website women can go to. It's called breastcancerchoices.org. And it has a page on there, which I did the research myself back in 2005. But you go to that page, and it says, if hormones, you can click at the top, hormones, and that's the page I'm talking about. And it says something to the effect, medical research contradicts medical advice. Oh, really? It says most practitioners remain unaware that most research shows that a woman with a history of breast cancer given estradiol after that diagnosis have equal or better recurrence rates of that cancer. Now that's like blasphemy, heretic. It's just going to get me in trouble, but the research is there.
Right.
And it says the 26 studies below from major medical journals is in no particular order. And that's what I found. When I did the research, all I did was pick all the articles I could find and read through them, and they would give you a ratio of that because that was what they were looking at.
Right.
The difference with estradiol and without. And it decreased the recurrence rate by about 2/3. And the death from all cause went way down in the estrogen group. Their sense of well-being was way better.
What does testosterone do for a woman?
Well, all those things I said, she can't. Okay, so here's the deal. Testosterone's been falling like a rock for a long time. The testosterone for an adult male in the 1940s for an average male was 750. Alpha males 950, 1100 and up. Okay, but the average was 750. Now, for males, the upper range of normal is 720.
I've seen a lot of males today, Doc, that need testosterone.
You can see it. And you know who else knows that? The women.
Yeah.
That's what,
That's a cultural thing. Maybe that's a different podcast, but that's yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know that's truly testosterone. Okay. I think it's just.
So the average today is 300. And mostly it's that high only because of older guys like me and some of my patients, they have higher testosterone. So, but the average, half the guys coming out of Austin to see me have never seen 200. And 750 was average.
Because it's Austin. I'm kidding.
Yeah. But the other cities are not so different, really, I think. We just play Austin up a lot. But so anyway, so that's the problem. But women, their testosterone is way worse than the men's.
I've seen it. Yeah,
it is. It's really bad. So women's a free testosterone for a woman used to go to 9.2, okay, and now I think it's 3.8. Now some of the younger women, depends on the lab you're talking to, but here's the problem: they all go to 0 as normal. As they can't. I think they're going down to 12 now, the labs that I use. They go as low as 12. Before they only measured to 16, and then it says less than 16.
Is it testosterone changing or the scale changing? What's going on?
Both. They're lowering the scale
Okay.
to meet what the people are. Okay? The new sick is normalized. I'm not doing that in my clinic. I'm not playing that game, and you can't get me to do it. That is just ridiculous. That's evil. Putting it on zero is evil. I called the president of the company that was who I've been using for. I've changed over the years, but probably 15 years now anyway. And I told him, I said, I'm really saddened by this because there's a lot of women that are going to really need the testosterone. They love it. They love the way they feel. And it's not supposed to go down. They love the way they're designed. That's probably a better way to think about it. And the guy says, well, I got to tell you, I spent more than one sleepless night after making that change. And he was telling me it was a study out of Harvard or whatever. I said, yeah, Harvard does really, really good stuff or really bad stuff. I don't see much in between. And so, and he changed it back. But then, I don't know why, but he went on with the flow with everybody else. A zero testosterone in a woman is they melt. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
They're an empty shell.
Right.
They don't have a self. They can't put on muscle. Okay, they can't build muscle by working out. They can't even maintain what they've got with hard work. And you give them the testosterone, put them in a girl's range, real woman's range, and they do great. And they're so thankful. And the workouts have an effect. Their focus of thinking, their libido comes back, and life is easier for them. It's hard for people now. Life's a struggle.
Yeah.
We don't have the fun. I ask me, what do you do for fun? Oh, damn. Guess nothing, really. They don't even have the energy to do that.
Right.
There's no enthusiasm for it.
Always sleeping, always napping. Just
Yeah. Cortisol is another one that's really low.
Yeah.
But it's nice to give these people a life they maybe never had.
right.
And it's just getting them into a normal human range.
Yeah.
And so, but you have to treat the person. And one of my mentors is a Dr. Terry Hertog. He's a fourth-generation endocrinologist. Okay, his great-grandfather was known around the world. Hertog's sign is the loss of the lateral one-third of the eyebrow. That's a sign of low thyroid, rather serious sign. And they may be in normal range. What are you going to do with that, doc? And they got the symptoms, too, of low thyroid.
So one of the questions here from the audience, can you look at a person and see if they have thyroid issues from their physical appearance?
Absolutely can.
Right?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So Terry Hertog is the only one in his 4 generations that actually has labs to look at. And there's a lot. There's not enough to make the diagnosis in most cases. I mean, some there is. So I have a book of his that's probably 2.5 inches thick, literally. The whole book is signs and symptoms of hormonal deficiencies and excess from the neck up. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So he said, you learn a lot. Let's talk. Here's the problem with thyroid. You can do labs all day long and not know what's going on. And the reason is because if you see a TSH, that's whatever, 90% of doctors are going to check a TSH and that's it. Another is going to check a TSH and a free T4.
What are those two?
So the TSH is the signal from the pituitary gland. It stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. And your pituitary gland monitors your hormone levels. And then it sends out to the various glands that make those hormones to make it or cut back, right? And so if the TSH goes up, it means there's not enough in your bloodstream. It's trying to stimulate that thyroid, poke it harder and get more out of it. So you can have a high TSH and that you can look. And if you've got symptoms of low thyroid, then that's enough to treat. And then you see how they do, right? And then you're supposed to watch when the TSH gets into the normal range. Well, the normal range they have is from 0.4 to 4. That's 10 times difference in there. Hardly anything in the body has that kind of range appropriately. Okay, women's menstrual cycle hormones, sure, but not the others. And so some of the ranges show that, but they're really inappropriate. When I first started medicine, a 9 was okay for a TSH to be okay. Those people are very low on thyroid. They don't have the energy to hardly get out of bed. And the range for a free T3, which is the actual most, in my opinion, my integrative medicine opinion, is the most important one of those hormones to look at, because that's the actual thyroid hormone in its state in which it can actually act as thyroid hormone. Otherwise, it's bound up.
Gotcha.
Okay. So now there's another thyroid hormone that blocks thyroid receptors. It's a thyroid receptor blocker, not a stimulant like the real thyroid doing its job, stimulating the hormone to get the more energy into the cell and more activity going. It's a blocker of that. Well, how much of that do you have? Well, good luck, because it's 99% intracellular. What are you going to do with that in the bloodstream? How do you check thyroid receptors? And on the reverse of that, I've had patients that they look like they needed it. Their hormones were low and this and that, and you give them a little thyroid. Whoa, doc, that was too much. I think I felt like I drank two or three cups of coffee I didn't need. Wow, really? Yes. Okay. And any doctor would have tried to treat them.
Right.
And so you really have to listen to people, recognize the variation, and if you're using the body's own chemistry, the body's used to that. What if you got hit in the throat with a baseball or something, and it hits your thyroid gland, and it's spilling out all over the place? You've only got so many receptors, number one, so that's good. You got a limit. You got a cap on what can happen.
Right.
And so I try to use the body's own chemistry. Because there's so much of it's wrong that can be put into place, and people go, oh my gosh, this has been a game changer. And they're coming in with symptoms, and then you start investigating that. But looking at thyroid, okay. So thyroid people put fat on in the middle, just above their knee, on the inside of where they touch their legs together, right there, just above that knee, that protrusion at the knee, right above there. You can grab that and pinch some fat, a pretty fair amount of fat, on the other side, on the inside of your thigh, right there.
Right here. Okay.
Right there. Okay. The thyroid gland you lose it from the side there. You have bumps, little tiny bumps from coming down the shoulder over the tricep, the back of the arm. You feel that there. It almost feels like a folliculitis, inflammation of the little hair follicles and stuff, a little bumpy like that. That's a sign of low thyroid.
Wow.
And so, sometimes the love handles can also, especially if they're pretty pronounced, can be a sign of low thyroid.
Muffin top.
And then, muffin top, and then the other part, right? And so, also the symptoms of thyroid are, dry hair, maybe a little constipation.
Nails.
Dry skin, that kind of thing. But the one I find that shows up the most telling, and it's a surprise, low thyroid people have a hard time starting the day and a hard time giving up the day to go to bed. They stay up later than they should, and they know it. And they're saying to themselves, this is stupid. I got to get up tomorrow. One more thing. That's a sign of low thyroid. And if I put somebody in the normal range and they look like they're doing good, but they still have that going on, I mean, the end of the day, there's a lot of things that make you tired in the morning getting up. You could have sleep apnea, you can be low on cortisol, whatever. Those things will slow you down too. But that one at the end of the day, if the thyroid's going and you're tired and you're in the day, you're going to bed. But the thyroid will keep you up. They get a little burst of energy towards the end. Yeah. So there's a lot of things like that, and that's why I like that I have these skills. Cortisol is a whole different deal. Testosterone's another thing. I mean, there's so many things you can look at to see. And so,
Doc, I think we're going to have you on for part 2, maybe part 3. There's a lot of intriguing information. The body is such a a vessel and a machine, and the brain is a miraculous organ.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know a lot about the brain and how it impacts everything we do. One piece of the brain, if you remove it, it could change everything from memory to I mean, we can go into Alzheimer's and dementia. There's so many things that we can talk about. It is definitely a dynamic vessel, and this conversation has been dynamic, man. I've learned a lot of things.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, it is fun, and it's just having an educational conversation about things that we all have: the brain, the lungs, the organs, and we all have the opportunity to have good health, good exercise, and good regimen workout, and eating the right things, and not putting crap in our bodies, and all this. We all have those options, and I love that you're in Wimberley. And you're just a phone call away, because we're gonna get into where we can find you again here in a second, and I'm sure Ariel probably knows a little bit more about where we can find you on socials. But yeah, this is a very intriguing conversation. I wish we can sit here and talk more. We'd have a 3 or 4, maybe 5-hour podcast, and maybe we can have a series. Who knows?
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that.
Because this is not your first podcast. Is it your first?
Actual podcast, maybe so.
Okay, but it's your first and
I was
definitely
a
not
guest
your last.
on a regular show.
Okay.
In Austin several years ago. It's not there anymore.
Okay. Well, maybe we can have you on as a recurring doctor. Maybe you can be our associate doc about diet, exercise, and things like that, and how to reduce your stress and how to reduce your things that you can control, and how to increase your libido, because everybody needs to increase that. And
no, you can overdo it.
Oh, and then you end up going to jail somehow if you have too much libido,
right?
Because then it overtakes you.
Or your wife's looking for a divorce or whatever.
Or that, yeah. Your wife's tired, always tired, and that's another.
She needs to come see me.
But yeah, been very intriguing. And where can we find you? I'm gonna refer that to Ariel here. Ariel knows all your socials.
Definitely. So you can find us on TikTok at the Sebring Clinic, Wimberley, on TikTok. And then we also have a Facebook page. It's going to be the Sebring Clinic. And then to get an appointment with us or just get to have a conversation with him or anything like that, we are located in Wimberley, Texas. You can call us at 512-847-5618 or email me personally. It'll be Ariel, and that's spelled Ariel at sebringclinic.com, and I would be more than happy to talk with you a little bit and get you scheduled for an appointment. We definitely have availabilities and love to see new faces, and he definitely loves to tackle mystery, so we always welcome those with open arms and all the good things. But yeah, we're located in Wimberley, and then our socials are on TikTok at the Sebring Clinic Wimberley and Facebook at Sebring Clinic.
And you can do 2 for 1. You know what's cool about Wimberley? They got good barbecue, don't they?
Oh yeah, Kelly's.
Yeah, so you can go see the doc, and then you can go maybe not indulge in a lot of bad food, but maybe some carnivore type meal.
Yeah, yeah.
Some venison.
There's some pretty decent steaks in town too. Actually,
there you go. Maybe 9 pounds of venison.
There you go.
You might be able to eat that.
Right.
But Doc, it's been a pleasure having you. You are definitely dynamic and you're extraordinary.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah.
Thanks for what you do. We covered a lot of information today.
Yeah, we did.
And we covered a lot, but we didn't cover a lot of my notes.
Right.
Because like I said, I can sit here with you for 4 or 5 hours and just, be mind blown on a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Different perspectives that I didn't even think about.
Right. Well, I appreciate getting an integrative medicine information out there and kind of the way that's done. Yeah. So I actually was a board examiner for the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine for several years. And I did all the tests and all the qualifications to become board certified, but there's no such recognition of that nationwide, and especially not Texas. So I don't claim that at all, but I did the requirements for it. And that, and that's a lot of work. But at one time we had, I don't know what we have now, but about 70,000 members worldwide. So it's
Wow.
growing.
Yeah.
It's growing.
And they might not recognize, but we recognize it here on the Social Plug Podcast. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
So
it's a big deal.
those of you watching, thank you. You can be anywhere in the world, but you're here watching with Doc, myself, Ariel, and JRock. Intriguing conversation on a Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. We love you guys. Your support is great. We can't grow without your support, your love and your comments and your sharing and your tagging and all these different things that you guys do for us. We got a lot of cool guests coming up. We have so many connections that we are still that we're making and that we're going to continue to make just for you guys, so you guys can get a behind the scenes look at some of these guests. We got anywhere from doctors to athletes to comedians to business owners, small business owners. We got franchise owners, and these are pro sports. So we have Jason Bettis. He's going to be in next week. He is the new owner of the San Antonio Clutch. They're a pro basketball league, or a team in a pro basketball league in San Antonio. So they're going to start the season up here real soon in March. So we get to go behind the scenes with Coach Jason and get to know what makes him tick and what he's looking for as far as athletes and a team. So you can find us on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Spotify. And our website is socialplugmedia.net. And with that said, we love you guys, and you are now unplugged from the Social Plug Podcast, where we connect you to level up. And we'll talk to you soon.